G'day friends, welcome back to the cutting mat on my desk. Today we're looking at an old radio. Yep, we're looking at an old radio. This is a Rincan model 5A50 personal all-wave that was made in Japan in the late 1950s or maybe very early 60s. And I found it in the garbage. Now, as far as radio sets go, this really isn't a particularly interesting one. It's a clone of an all-American 5-style tube AM shortwave radio, which by the late 1950s, if my knowledge is correct, were starting to get pretty old in terms of design. And it actually does still work, but it works about as well as you'd imagine, a 1950s or early 60s Japanese consumer-grade radio works in 2025.
My second question is, what is this $2 drug that for seniors that he's trying to take away?
He's trying to take away the health care, and he's trying to take away the ways that seniors have been able to go around.
And before the comment section explodes like a firework, believe it or not, I have actually taken this radio apart and replaced some of the capacitors on the power supply side of it, and it still buzzes like that. So as you can hear, it works. It turns on, it tunes, it receives just fine. It just doesn't work very well. And I kind of suspect that it probably never has. You see, I think we've all come to assume that anything that says made in Japan on the back typically has the Midas touch. It's just the best version of anything you can buy because the Japanese have built up a reputation of making things that are very high quality. But that wasn't always the case. Immediately post-war, most of the Japanese export items were Jap crap, as they called them, and this radio definitely falls into that category. It is a cheaply made throwaway item. So why am I even making this video about it? I should just throw it away where I found it. Because look at it. This radio more than makes up for any technological shortcomings it might have by being a beautiful piece of industrial design. Seriously, I love looking at it. I especially love the shadow effect that's created by putting the black text on a clear piece of acrylic in front of a white background. I just think that looks fantastic. The chrome trim, the blue color, it just does it for me. It does it for me so much that I've been using this radio, non-functional, as a bookend, just sitting on a bookcase in my house for quite a while. But recently, I was lying in bed and I kind of got a bee in my bonnet. I wondered if there was any way that I could add Bluetooth to this old radio so that I could just stream music to it like a Bluetooth speaker. And I also wondered if I could do it in a way that was as minimally destructive as possible. I didn't want to drill any holes in it. And if I could do it in a way that basically completely avoided piping sound into the old tube amplifier. The tube amplifier is fine, but I don't really enjoy listening to 50 hertz humming noises before I go to bed. And I think I figured out how to do it. So let's give it a try. It was -8 the other morning, and in this weather I just can't bring myself to spend any time in my workshop or garage. So I decided to bring the radio down to my local makerspace and work on it there. This is the Bluetooth module I got. It was about $20 off of Amazon. It's a mono 30-watt Bluetooth amplifier board that runs on 12 volts. It's really easy to take the radio apart. There's just 2 little thumb screws that hold this leather board back panel on that covers up all the tubes and things. And I noticed when I was removing it that the little cutouts in the leatherboard back panel, which I think are just for ventilation, were almost the perfect size to mount the Bluetooth receiver just with its little nut and washer that comes with the potentiometer. I ended up having to get a slightly larger washer to make it fit, but I thought it was a very elegant solution, requiring no drilling, and it was very solid. The rest of the radio is also almost comically easy to take apart. You can just pull the knobs off the front, and then there's 4 flathead screws that hold the whole radio chassis into the cheap plastic shell. I always think it's funny on these old radios how you just yank the entire radio as an assembly out of the case. I think part of the reason they were designed like this is so they could just make one radio chassis and then make a bunch of different looking shells to put over the top of it. At least that's my best guess. I'm soldering some wires directly onto the speaker because I'm just going to hook it right up to the amplifier board. I'm not going to use the radio amplifier at all. Now if you notice, the speaker has this large coil thing connected to it. That's because it's a constant voltage or high voltage speaker. So that transformer steps down the voltage to a voltage that doesn't blow up the speaker, I guess. But since the little amplifier board just basically puts out speaker voltage, I'm bypassing that and I'm soldering the wires directly to the little terminals on the speaker. Then I just connected the little amplifier board up and plugged it into a wall wart power adapter and just made sure that it all worked. I then smashed said wall wart power supply, and I took the little switch mode power supply board out of it. And I'm just going to solder some wires onto this and use that as the power supply for the amplifier. People finally stopped talking at the warehouse where I am, so I can stop with the voiceover for a second and explain to you a little bit how this works. Basically, the amplifier board is directly connected to the speaker. It totally bypasses the electronics of the radio, and then I'm powering it using the guts of a little wall wart style power adapter, and I just put 2 wires on instead of the prongs, and I wired them directly to the line cord of the radio. So as soon as I plug it in, this little switch mode power supply starts making 12 volts, and that feeds the amplifier board. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to attach it somewhere inside the case, probably like that, just with some double-sided tape, and I think it'll be done. Dare I say this project turned out better than expected? Because I think I might say that. The end result is more or less exactly what I wanted. The radio is completely unchanged aesthetically, but now just functions like a Bluetooth audio device. I hope this video doesn't upset any vintage radio purists in the comments section. If you are a vintage radio purist and you're in the comments section and you're upset, here's a couple things to keep in mind. Firstly, I didn't touch on this earlier, but this radio set seems to be quite rare. I don't know how rare, but rare enough that I can't find even a single photo of it on the internet by anyone else. I found some similar Rincan models, but none of the 5A50. And for that reason, just purely for posterity, I tried to be as minimally destructive as possible with this conversion. I mentioned this earlier, but I succeeded. I didn't drill any holes in the radio, I didn't use any glue, I didn't use any screws, and I didn't modify the radio in any way. I just soldered some wires onto some solder points in the circuitry of the radio that were already there. So everything is totally reversible, and the AM and shortwave part of the radio still works just fine. You'll have to take my word for it. However, it is important to keep in mind that rarity does not necessarily equate to value, and I'm almost positive that this thing is completely worthless. As a matter of fact, like I mentioned earlier, I actually found this radio in the garbage. It was being thrown away at a tech recycling center, and I grabbed it because I thought it looked cool. The second reason is that, to me anyway, a Bluetooth audio device is way more useful than even a really good AM shortwave radio. Where I live, AM radio is not really that much of a thing anymore. There's a couple stations, they're mostly religious, and I don't listen to them anyway. Also, a Bluetooth speaker is significantly more useful to me than a marginally functional AM shortwave radio that I was using as a bookend. Here's a little off-the-cuff post-credits end to this video. I've been kind of off the YouTube train for maybe a year or so now. I've just gotten really busy with life stuff and I haven't had any time to make YouTube videos. But I noticed recently that a lot of new people have been coming to the channel. I think we're getting close to 10,000 subscribers, which is pretty crazy. A lot of people might not know this about me, but I'm not very old. And I started making YouTube videos in 2009 when I was 11. So it's pretty cool to see my YouTube account with close to 10,000 subscribers and a lot of views and a lot of new people commenting on it recently, even on like really old videos. So I hope in the new year, I'm gonna have some time to make some more videos like this, maybe some more videos about some other things that you guys find interesting. So stay tuned and thank you for all the support and watching all the videos over the years. All right, take it easy.